When I was growing up, and in full disclosure, I was raised by baby boomers. I mean, look at me. I'm old, okay? Anyway, when I was growing up, my parents tried to limit the amount of TV I could watch. They'd rather that I go outside and play with my brother or have some friends over and play board games or something like that. Later, as a father myself, this sentiment persisted. I would watch my sons invest countless hours in playing video games, and I would just become unhinged. I tried all kinds of things to kind of nudge them out the door. I put time locks on internet access, locked the game controllers away in cabinets, and did everything I could to encourage them to, well, I don't know, do something productive, like take up a hobby, play an instrument, do sports, hang out with your friends. I don't care. Just go out and do something. Now, as I said earlier, my father is a baby boomer, which makes me Gen X. And as it's often said, Gen X is just boomer light. Still, I don't lay the blame for this obsession with working and a loathing of laziness at the feet of baby boomers. To find the root of this ethos, we need to go back, way back to the 17th century, when the Protestant sect, the Calvinists, were coming into their own. In his book, The Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism, Max Weber mapped out how the Calvinists' attitude toward work and profit, attitudes that persist today in much of the Western world, really shaped how we operate in capitalism today. These attitudes, many assert, resulted in the creation of astonishing wealth for society. Here is a quick rundown of Weber's argument. First, life is short, so a person had better use every moment as best they can to secure their place in heaven. I mean, we're talking about Calvinists after all. As Weber explained, waste of time is thus the first and, in principle, the deadliest of sins. The span of human life is infinitely short and precious to make sure of one's own election, whether one has been chosen by God for salvation or not. For this reason, laziness and sloth were considered the very worst of sins. Second, according to this work philosophy, a person's job isn't just a job, it's a holy calling from God. As Weber explained, for everyone without exception, God's providence has prepared a calling, which he should profess and in which he should labor. It is a direct consequence of the divine scheme of things. When your job isn't just a job, but a holy calling, well, now calling in sick to work, this has eternal ramifications. Third, God doesn't care much for those living luxurious lifestyles. In Calvinism, living an ascetic lifestyle was the best way to show your humility and virtue to God. As Weber explained, this worldly Protestant asceticism acted powerfully against the spontaneous enjoyment of possessions. It restricted consumption, especially of luxuries. However, this was not an admonition against earning, but rather against exorbitant spending. As Weber put it, the campaign against the temptation of the flesh and the dependence on external things was not a struggle against the rational acquisition, but against the irrational use of wealth. Fourth, investing was the name of the game. Here's the idea. You're going to work your ass off 6 days of the week, so you're going to make a lot of money. But you're not really allowed to spend that money on anything more than is necessary to meet your ascetic needs. So what are you going to do with all that money you've earned? You invest it. As Weber pointed out, the Calvinists would cite the parable of the servant with the talents in the New Testament as evidence of this directive. So what was the result of all this? Well, following these values, the acquisition of wealth is the inevitable result. As Weber put it, when the limitation of consumption, in other words, don't spend it, is combined with the release of acquisitive activity, which is to say work your ass off, the inevitable practical result is obvious: accumulation of capital through ascetic compulsion to save. The restraints which were imposed upon the consumption of wealth naturally serve to increase it, by making possible the productive investment of capital, or as we might say, don't spend it, invest it. So yeah, the next time someone, including you, accuses you of being lazy or not working hard enough or spending too much and not investing it in your future, something like that, just know that the ghosts of the Calvinists are reaching out to you through the generations. All right, there you go. Thanks a lot for joining, and until we talk again, have a fantastic day.